Hey everybody, Austin here again doing Q&A session number 7, the Patreon Q&A session number 7. So this is going live probably about a month after Q&A number 6, and previously I would usually wait 3 or 4 months before doing my next Q&A session because let's be honest here, I'm kind of lazy and I always push them off and off and off and and then I completely forget about them, which is bad. So I do actually enjoy doing these, contrary to what you guys probably think, and I would like to do them more often. So I'm going to try to make a more concerted effort to do that. And so with Q&A number 7 coming not too long after Q&A number 6, I think that's a good sign so far. And the second this goes live on YouTube, I'll start looking for questions for Q&A session number 8. Thanks to everyone that submitted questions this time. We actually got 6 people giving me different questions or topics to talk about, which is awesome. That's, I think, the most we've had for any Q&A session. Yeah, thank you guys for that. And for those of you guys unfamiliar with this format, this is basically a podcast style video. It's mainly audio only. I will have some gameplay in the background, but there's not going to be any editing or anything. So this is the sort of thing where if you want to, you can just you can minimize the player and just listen to it in the background as you do whatever. And yeah, so I think this time what I'm going to try to do is post some time codes in the comments section down below, just with each individual username that submitted questions. So you can just click on each one, I guess, to switch the question. Maybe I'll just list the questions. Maybe that's easy. Actually, probably easier. I'll probably just list the questions. So, if there's a specific topic you want my opinions on, you can just click on that instead of having to listen to the whole thing. The people that submitted the questions will know, who they are. So if they just want to hear their question answered, they can just skip to that too. So, but yeah, thanks for that, guys. Thanks for submitting those questions. John Evan Baer, Jeffrey Schaefer, Crestline Iceberg, Tony Hayden, Sketchcraft, and Solid Nate. So thank you, folks, for that. Just a heads up for people that are patrons or YouTube channel members or even Twitch subscribers, you've got a couple different places you can submit questions or topics that you want me to talk about for future Q&A videos. So Patreon backers, you can just post on pretty much any post that you want me to answer a question or talk about a topic for a future Q&A video. Also, as these go live, I actually make dedicated posts on Patreon saying, hey, let's get the next Q&A session going. Those are the perfect posts, especially to drop questions for a future Q&A video. Also, I have a patron-only Discord server that goes for YouTube channel members, Twitch subs, and Patreon backers. You just have to make sure you link your Discord account with your Patreon account, or go into Discord, your settings, and link your Twitch or YouTube accounts with that. And then once you do that correctly, my server will automatically pop up. I have a Q&A section there just for backers, and so you can go there and drop questions as well. That's actually where we got a bunch of our questions this time, which is great. So thank you guys for that. And if you are a backer of any kind, you can always just reach out to me directly on other places like Twitter. That's where I do most of my social media. I also have Facebook. You can do private messages there as well. As long as you're a Patreon backer or current channel member at the time or whatever, I'll add your questions to a list or topics to a list, and then once I get enough, I'll do the next Q&A. So, but with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with our first question here from John Evan Baer. And he goes, hello, Austin. Do you think kids born today will appreciate 8-bit style games from the NES and Master System era growing up? Or do you think those games will go the way of the 2600, Intellevision, etc., where hardly anybody but the most hardcore gamer talks about them? Yeah, I do see them kind of going the way of the 2600. I mean, as kids grow up, they're going to be surrounded by more current generations of gaming hardware and different types of gaming experiences. And I think super retro games from, say, even the NES era is... for one, they won't even know about it to begin with. I mean, it's not like these games are really shoved in the faces of kids growing up today, with a couple of exceptions. The kid maybe on a Nintendo platform might happen to see, you know, like the original Super Mario Brothers or Mario 2 or 3 available on some random service. But, you know, for the most part, I think a lot of kids will not even really know much about these generations growing up. And that's just the way of life. I mean, there are some kids, you know, from, say, the mid-90s that don't even know what an Atari 2600 is. And, yeah, no, I do think that generally... you know, the average consumer will just, yeah, they'll just forget about it, or they won't even know about it. And so will they appreciate 8-bit style games from the NES era and Master System era? Probably not. Or, you know, maybe they experience some indie titles that are 8-bit style. So, you know, the 8-bit style can potentially live on, you know, on modern platforms like that. But will they go and look up NES and Master System games? Probably not. But they might actually have an appreciation for that style, not realizing that it's a style from a long time ago that used to actually be considered normal. I don't know. I really don't know, John Evan Bear. I do know that you know, there will always be the hardcore gamer, though. Like myself growing up, I had a natural inclination to dive into the past and experience the past firsthand. You know, so while the 2600 was my very first game console, my parents sold it very early on in my life. And, you know, in the late 90s, I got a nostalgia for it, and I rediscovered it, and I got a console and games. And then that led to other things, me getting a Master System, me getting an Intellevision and a ColecoVision, and an Odyssey 2, and I think I had a broken Atari 5200 even, and so I ended up getting all that stuff and just being naturally interested in it, and I was looking up game history all the time. And, you know, you will always have lonely souls like myself at age 13, you know, being into this stuff. And I see it today on gaming forums, even Atari age. There are a couple of guys on there that are like 14 and, you know, getting into it very much like I was in, 1996. So, but will the average kid appreciate 8-bit style games? Probably not, you know, unless they happen to stumble upon an indie game, you know, that has that sort of style and it resonates with them. But, yeah, I honestly don't even know where to go with this question, because, you know, you can never really predict the future all that accurately for the most part, especially when it comes to video games. I mean, maybe for some reason some of these older consoles will have some sort of, rebirth, and, the mainstream will be all about them again, but I highly doubt it. I think... outside of the random mini console, which I think we're probably past that phase with the NES Classic and SNES Classic, pretty much just no one talks about them anymore. They're a couple of years old now. Unless, there's a little craze like that again that happens in the future, I don't really foresee a lot of kids appreciating the older stuff. Now, I will personally be interested to see what happens, because I have found, through, being on YouTube and doing lots of collecting and playing and talking to lots of people over the last decade in particular, is that you still have new people kind of getting into it. Now, I don't think a lot of them are kids, but you do have a lot of new people getting back into it and appreciating the NES and Master System era. I think because a lot of those games are a lot easier to get into. They have really catchy soundtracks that are kind of timeless and covered by bands and things like that. The music is great. Whereas you go back to the 2600 era, and unless you lived through it, or unless like you really, really enjoy just really simplistic arcade style games, which I think that's kind of becoming a rarity, unfortunately, it's harder to appreciate that era. So when I find people getting into retro games, a lot of times it's the NES era and on. And a lot of those NES, some of those NES games are just all-time classics. Your Mario Brothers, your Mega Man 2, your Ninja Gaidens, your Castlevanias, stuff like that, your Double Dragons, and a lot of the design elements in those games just hold up fairly well, and I think they're easier to get into, and they're just fun to play, and it's this sort of thing where even if you weren't around when these games existed, once you start playing them, you hear the music and yada, yada, yada. It's, just something clicks in your head and you're like, oh, this is actually really fun. And, I think it's easier to enjoy those games as a first timer than, say, going back to the 2600 era. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future, John. We'll see what happens. So I hope that answers your question or gives you food for thought. Of course, I'd be interested in hearing what your thoughts are on it. So definitely post something in the comments and let me know. So next question comes from Jeffrey Schaefer. He goes, will you be doing a follow-up on the Castlevania Collection stream with the Japanese versions of the games? Jeffrey, I actually wasn't considering it. And honestly, I completely forgot that I got the Japanese versions of the games. But you know what I think I'm going to do is in October, I will take your idea and I will run with it. And so we will do a Castlevania Collection follow-up stream in October, one of these Thursdays, and we'll cover the Japanese versions of those games. So I'm not sure if you check out the live streams, Jeffrey, but if you don't, watch out for the archive, and I will do that. So yeah, that'll be one of the topics for October. Should be a fun one. So the next set of questions comes from Crestline Iceberg, and Crestline loves his first-person shooters, so they're going to be FPS topic, or it's going to be a topic based around FPS games, classic ones. So first one, Crestline says, do you prefer gameplay aspects in Doom Engine games or Build Engine games? And which game do you enjoy the most? I'm not sure what he means by the second one. So I'll just list the game I prefer the most in each engine. But for those of you guys that are unfamiliar with it, the Doom engine housed games like Doom, Doom 2, Heretic, Hexen, Strife, Chex Quest, and I don't remember if there was another Doom engine game or not. But then Build Engine, which is an engine that came out a little while later, more advanced technically, housed games like Power Slave, Shadow Warrior, Blood, and Duke Nukem 3D, which is the big one, and some other games as well. Personally, I prefer gameplay aspects in Doom Engine games. Doom Engine games are usually a little more simplistic, but I think they feel better in terms of movement. I feel like walking around in the environments feels more natural. The movement pacing feels almost perfect to me. Whereas the Build Engine games, they're definitely more speedy, but I don't think they really feel quite as solid as the Doom Engine games. Also with the free looking that you can do in Build Engine games, oftentimes objects moving around in the playfield have more of like a paper cutout kind of look. Like they don't seem to mesh with the environments quite as well as Doom Engine sprites do. So there's that. Also, I do find that the Doom Engine games are more reliant on projectile-based enemies. They do have some hit scanner enemies, but Build Engine games are very, very heavily based around hit scanners, and which makes them very annoying to play. So basically, you peek your head around the corner, there's an enemy all the way on the other side of the map. They don't shoot visible projectiles, and so the second that you peek your head out, bam, you take damage, at least on the higher difficulties. It's not as bad if you play on the easier difficulties, but I like playing my games on the higher difficulties, especially with first-person shooters. I mean, I was kind of trained in Doom to play on a higher setting, and so I've kind of just rolled into most other FPSs on higher settings. But Build Engine games are usually a lot more difficult, but I think personally for the wrong reasons, like lots of hit scanner enemies and things like that. Blood and Shadow Warrior are perfect examples of that, and they're very frustrating to go through on anything other than the medium difficulties. I think as far as my favorites, in each engine, Doom and Doom 2, obviously my favorites there. I mean, those are some of my favorite games of all time. Build Engine game, I would definitely say Duke Nukem 3D. While I don't go back to it as often as I might say go back to like Blood, Duke Nukem 3D to me is the Doom of the build engine. Like, it's super polished, it's very well thought out, it's very involved, it's just a great game from start to finish, very polished experience overall. Whereas some of the other build engine games, I think, can get kind of sloppy, either from, you know, enemy placement standpoints or just general level design standpoints, or the reliance on hit scanner enemies like Blood and Shadow Warrior. So yeah, build engine stuff is really cool. I will give it that. The really cool thing about build engine stuff is that they're highly interactive. You know, you've got all these like light switches you can flip, and you know, in Duke Nukem 3D you can destroy like fire extinguishers on the wall, and you can have your environments basically fall apart or have like holes open up in the wall. And I'm pretty sure stuff like this can happen in the Doom engine as well, but you don't really ever see it in the classic ones from back in the day. Yeah, no, I respect the build engine. I just prefer the Doom engine because it feels so smooth and it's so much fun. I feel the gunplay just feels a lot better to me. So but yeah, so next question from Crestline, which is not FPS related actually. He says, will you play through the Golden Axe Sega Genesis games on a live stream? And the short answer is yes, I will eventually. If not a live stream, I'll do a Let's Play. Some people kind of interchange Let's Play for live stream, even though my format's a little bit different. But yeah, I do want to do the Golden Axe games eventually. If I don't do dedicated Let's Plays, maybe we'll just do a dedicated live stream, and that could be interesting. So Crestline's last question is, of classic ports from the 5th generation and below, so I believe that's the PlayStation and Saturn and N64 era, which Doom and Doom 2 have you gotten the most enjoyment out of? So, you know, if we're not talking the PC originals, which obviously would, you know, take that, it would be the PlayStation version and the Jaguar version. Those are the two ones that I enjoyed the most, with the 32X one kind of like right behind that. I mean, I don't know. This is actually kind of a tough question because I actually started on Super Nintendo Doom and I played the hell out of that game for a long time. So I mean, really, that could be on the list too. It's tough. I played a lot of 32X Doom. I played a lot of Jaguar Doom, a lot of PlayStation Doom. But I mean, I would say PlayStation Doom was the best of those ports, and you know, it's the most content rich. Jag Doom, I always appreciated, you know, just as much as the PlayStation version because it was actually more faithful to the PC version in many ways. You know, with its utilization of the original PC sound effects and whatnot, and it felt more like the PC version of the game too. Looked and felt more like the PC version. So, but yeah, I'll say Jaguar and PlayStation. But realistically, I also played a ton of 32X Doom and a ton of Super Nintendo Doom, and I've got a soft spot for Super Nintendo Doom too because it was the first version I played. It was really my first real full experience with Doom outside of some random demo on our friend's computer that ran at 2 frames a second. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Crestline. All right, so Tony Hayden, he asks, hey Austin, what do you think of the PC Engine Mini and the Sega Genesis Mini consoles? Do you think you will be interested in getting any of them? I think they're both pretty cool. I do like the mini consoles that have come out in the last few years. I have an NES Classic, SNES Classic, and PS1 Classic. I don't personally have a need for them, but they are kind of fun to mess around with on the live stream every now and then. And I kind of just would put the PC Engine and Genesis Minis in kind of the same category where, you know, they're cool, but I don't really need them, but I might eventually get them just to try them out on a live stream. You know, I've done SNES Classic, NES Classic, and PS1 Classic streams on YouTube and Twitch, so it would be cool to replicate that with both of these upcoming minis coming out. I do think the lineup is great on both, especially the PC Engine Mini, and it's great that M2 is doing these products, or doing the software side of these products, which means the emulation quality should be pretty solid. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those pan out. I probably won't buy any of them right away though, because money's kind of tight right now. But we'll see. I don't know. I said the same thing with the NES and SNES Classics, and then what do you know? I ended up getting those too. So, but yeah, thanks for the question, Tony. Next one comes from Sketchcraft, and I think this is a short one. He goes, "Hey Austin, just wondering if you might ever cover TMNT 3 on the NES, as well as Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo, to round out the TMNT games." And the answer is yes. I've actually wanted to do both of those for a long time, and actually I did do Turtles in Time in the past. I did a long play with a partial commentary on it. And I've been meaning to revisit it as a dedicated Let's Play sometime in the future. And same with TMNT 3. I actually meant to do part 3 years ago, and I just never got around to it. That's the thing about, how I do things here is that, like years ago I did the TMNT 2 Let's Play, and I wanted to do part 3 shortly after. And I fired it up on Twitch and just kind of lost interest a couple levels in. Sometimes I just have to be really in the mood to play something. And, every time I fired up the TMNT games, I just haven't been in the right mindset to just really get into them. And I have to really get into them, because if I don't, then, I don't finish the game enough times. I think the Let's Play comes off just being kind of pointless. Obviously, you as the audience can probably tell I'm not really into it, or like I haven't learned that many tricks, and so there's not much good information for me to talk about, mechanically speaking, which kind of makes the point of the video, pointless. But yeah, no, I absolutely want to do those eventually, and I will try to make it a point to get to them sometime in the near future. Pending, my motivation to actually continue sticking with them once I fire them up on Twitch or something like that. But we'll see. So the last question here comes from Solid Nate, and this is sort of an open-ended question, as he says. He says, after doing YouTube for as long as you have, how do you feel about the whole experience? Is there anything you would change? And is there anything you're thinking of changing still today? Okay, so I'm not really sure where I'm going to take this question, because, YouTube is near and dear to me. For those of you guys that don't know, that come this October, I will have been doing YouTube videos for a decade. I think end of October, it'll be a decade. And it's been quite the journey. It's been a long journey. Has it been worth it? 10 years of my life? That's a tough one to answer. And how do I feel about the whole experience? It's there have been a lot of ups and downs. Lots of ups and downs. So just for a little backstory, for those of you guys that don't know, I started YouTube just as it was just I was watching YouTube at the time. I had been watching YouTube for a couple of years, and then I stumbled upon channels that were doing reviews and stuff like that, and giving opinions about games and talking about a little bit about game history and stuff like that. And before YouTube, and from the mid 90s all the way up until I started doing YouTube in 2009, like I had been what I had considered a hardcore gamer. I've imported a ton of games. I had dozens and dozens of consoles and hands-on experience with them. I've had the majority of libraries of certain consoles, so I had a lot of experience with very specific consoles, and even good experience with lots of other consoles too. I had worked in video game retail for years. I had collected. I had done a little bit of competitive gaming in that space as well, with fighting games and stuff like that. And I felt like I had something to share, like at the time anyway. Now, 10 years later, it's like, what do I have to share? There's so many YouTubers out there doing retro gaming things that, it's easy to lose focus and wonder, like, why am I even still doing this? But back then in 2009, I did it because I really felt I had something to share, and it looked like the guys that were making videos were having a lot of fun, and so I wanted to try that too. I went out and I got a relatively cheap camcorder. It was like $100. I think I tossed it on a credit card or something like that, and I shot my camcorder at the television, and I had to stack it on a bunch of like shoe boxes just to get it to line up, and it was probably one of the most awful things I have ever done, and it took me forever just to get that first video out. Yeah, the thing about kind of where I've come from with YouTube, Nate, is that, like, Nate says, is there anything you would change? And it's like, on one hand, I'd say, yeah, I'd like to change it all and have a completely different focus on YouTube. You know, start learning video editing right away. You know, ditch the crappy camcorder. But the fact is, I was completely oblivious to video editing, any sort of, you know, video production work or anything like that. I had no idea where to start. So I just saw other YouTubers and I just kind of did what they did. In terms of like, you know, the video style, for one, just casual talk and plays. They used to actually just be called gameplay and talks. That's where my channel name comes from, gameplay and talk. It's because the first style of videos, I would literally play some of the game and then talk over it. You know, some review aspects, some just historical aspects, some just general opinions, some commenting on the, you know, the gameplay itself and blah, blah, blah. Reminiscing. It was a whole host of things there. And, you know, the fact is, like, I'd like to say, yeah, there's a lot I would change, but there was a lot that I don't think I could have changed because I just was oblivious to what I could actually do. You know, it wasn't for another year and a half, I think, that I got a capture card. And even then, the capture card quality was pretty terrible. You can go back and look at some of my videos from 2010 and 2011. They look like hot garbage, as Nate knows I like to say. They look pretty bad, and in hindsight, I would have gotten a better capture setup, or I would have used emulation. I would have used emulation and captured emulation footage to get better captures. One of the reasons I go back and I redo games that I've already covered on my channel is because the video quality of the old playthroughs is so bad that I'm embarrassed by it. And so now that I have upscalers and I do RGB for a lot of stuff where possible, or I do FPGA consoles like the AVS or Mega SG or Super NT, which makes things look fantastic, razor sharp, I get good video quality, and that helps things a lot. Had my video quality been great 7, 8 years ago, I probably wouldn't be going back and redoing a lot of these playthroughs, but you know, it is what it is. So the other thing about my YouTube channel, Nate, is that you know, when I started, it was definitely a very casual thing. I was extremely motivated by it, though. I was pumping out videos like every single day. You see a lot of new YouTubers. I think even in your stream chat, I saw someone saying, I just started YouTube 6 months ago and I'm up to like 500 videos already. And I'm like, ugh, that sounds like me when I started. I don't recommend people do that, by the way. But the thing is, like, for someone like me in particular that has a fairly addictive personality, once I get into something and once something starts becoming fun, like really naturally fun that I don't have to think about, I want to do it all the time. And that's what YouTube was like for me. I wanted to do it all the time. And I had so many games I could cover, and I had this camcorder, and it only took 10 minutes to make a video, and I had to transfer it to my computer from the SD card and then, you know, upload it to YouTube, pending YouTube's upload system actually worked, because it was a train wreck at the time, for those of you guys that don't know. Yeah, I could just pump out video after video after video. And, you know, in the beginning, too, they only got like 10 or 15 views or 20 views or something like that. And for those of you guys that look at my channel, they're like, oh, he's got some views. Like, no, like I do, but I've been there. I know what it's like, you know, making a video and posting it and only getting 5, 10, 20 views, if that, and then having them sit at that for a while. And getting 100 views on a single video was a big deal, you know, and passing that threshold where like I was getting 100 on every video and then 200 on every video, and that was actually a very long process, mind you. You know, it was addicting, and yeah, it was fun. But you know, if I knew I was gonna be where I am now 10 years ago, I think I definitely would have focused on different things, because, you know, with YouTube and with the amount of time it takes to make videos, even Let's Plays, and focusing on live streams and stuff like that, and getting prepped for them and practicing them and doing all the other stuff that comes along with them, it's time consuming. And you know, when you put as much time into a channel as I have, you want to see your channel grow, and you want to see like that work really pay off in I guess you could say a big way, but what is a big way? Is it 50,000 subscribers? Is it 100, or is it just 20,000, you know, after a certain point? Right now, as I'm doing this video, I think I'm at about 8,600, and which is fantastic. My growth has been, you know, it's been okay. It's been better in the last 5 years than it has been the first 5 years. I will say that. So there's slight exponential growth, but it's not, you know, I'm getting to that point where I'm tired. You know, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I almost feel like, while I still really enjoy it, there are times where I get really burnt out and I just don't want to do it, you know, and I don't even know where I'm going with this. I guess the point is that, you know, personally, I would like to see my channel grow a lot more than it has. You know, basically, when your channel's growing, there's this positive feedback loop. It's like, as you put effort into your channel grows, and then you feel like what you're doing is really worthwhile and it's really making a difference to the people that watch. And I haven't really been feeling that much lately. And I feel like, as far as anything I could change, anything I would have changed, is I probably would have focused on scripted content more. So in 2011, I started making my first scripted content, and people really enjoyed those, you know, and my scripted content, while none of it has really gotten, like, you know, crazy amounts of views, compared to a Let's Play, though, that might get 500 to 1,000 views over the course of a year or two or whatever. Very few of my Let's Plays break past like 1,000 views. See, like, a couple of them have gotten 5, 6, or 7,000 over the last 6 or 7 years, but it's very few, and it's very specific topics, like Castlevania. You know, my Castlevania Let's Plays have gotten, you know, more views than, you know, just about any other Let's Play I've done. My scripted content, on the other hand, has always, I feel like the scripted content has had more use, and people have been more interested in it, and there's a little more longevity in that content. And it's content that's, it's to be proud of, really, because there was a lot of effort put into the scripted stuff I did. I still don't think a lot of it's great. I go back and rewatch some of it, and I'm like, man, I'm not that good at it. But, you know, the thing about it is you also have to practice at it, and I never practiced at it that much. So I did several scripted videos in 2011, and then I think in 2012 I might have done just a couple, and then 2013, 2014, maybe 1 or 2 each year. My SNES Shmups video from 2014 is actually, I think it's 2014. It still gets views. I still get comments on it. It's probably 30 or 40,000 views now, which is great. And like, the views continue to go up over the years, and that makes me feel good. Even though people didn't agree with my opinions at the time, and I do think I could have worded those opinions totally differently, it still has traction all these years later. Whereas my Abadox Let's Play from, you know, a couple years prior, it gets nothing, you know. So like, if there was something I definitely would have done differently, I would have focused more on scripted content, because for one, it's higher quality content. It would have let me basically spread my wings more creatively. Let's Plays are really fun, and I will touch on those in a minute, but Let's Plays are fun, but the scripted stuff actually has me like kind of getting really creative with the video editing. And if you watch my various scripted videos, you'll notice that I do things differently in every video. Like, it wasn't just I wasn't just following like a specific format. I was experimenting with each video, and things I would basically start with a blank slate. You know, I would write the script and do the voiceover, but then I'd start with a blank slate when it came to the actual video editing part. Like, what clips do I use? How do I transition? And all that stuff. It would just depend on, you know, how I was feeling at the time, and every video would kind of come out looking different, which I thought was pretty cool. So I could have definitely grown more creatively, and then I think as a result, my channel also would have grown a lot faster, because that kind of content is a lot more popular than a full playthrough of a game. You know, anyone can play through a game, which is why I think, a lot of my Let's Plays in particular, we're at a point where they don't really, it seems like they don't really resonate with people that much. I mean, some of you guys out there really enjoy them, but, the overall viewership on them and the actual viewer interaction with them is just, it's not growing exponentially. It's just kind of plateaued. Actually, it's kind of less than plateaued. It did plateau for a while, but I think it's actually going in the opposite direction now. I think it's dwindling, which is bad. So it's, the dwindling aspect is really making for some major lack of motivation to continue doing them. But yeah, if anything, I would have changed definitely more scripted content. There are actually a lot of things I would have changed on YouTube. But again, I want to go back to the beginning where I said, like, YouTube was a very new thing. When I started it, I didn't think about taking it seriously. Despite doing it a lot, I didn't really think about taking it seriously. And in the early days, my channel was all over the place too. I had so many different types of content. One of the things I would have changed is to focus on a specific set of content. So I used to post just casual vlogs, non-video game related. I used to just post various family things on my YouTube channel. I used to post video game music. I used to post pinball videos. I used to post gameplay only videos with no commentary. I've split all those off into separate channels. And if I had to do it all over, I would have split all those off right from the very beginning. I wouldn't, I would start YouTube, not necessarily seriously per se, but like I would make sure my channel was consistent with its content. And, I do think that also hurt my growth in the early days too, along with having crappy content. Now, consistency, I think, consistency is actually very important on YouTube. If you're going around doing lots of random stuff that's unrelated to what you're doing, I think you're going to bleed subscribers, or subs that stay will just kind of naturally lose interest in the stuff you do. And like, a video of yours might pop up in their sub feed, but they might not click on it anymore or forget about you. I've done that with channels that I'm still sub to for some odd reason or another, because they haven't been consistent. And so these last couple of years in particular, I've personally made a goal to be consistent, where I'm just doing Let's Plays and live streams and then these occasional Q&As or whatever, to hopefully keep people interested that are interested in this style of video that I do. I mean, plenty of other things I would change too, but I'll have to dwell on it for maybe a future follow-up. But Nate says, is there anything you're thinking of still changing today? And I don't know. I thought about trying to do other video types, trying to go back in the scripted direction, but I've been saying that for years. And I do have some stuff worked up. I actually wrote a script a couple weeks ago, but and this is what always happens to me when I write scripts, is that I really struggle with the intro and the outro. Like, if you have a poor intro and you have a poor outro, then the rest of it just kind of falls apart in my eyes. And I'm really struggling with that right now. And I've got I think all the capture footage I need for it. I spent hours and hours on Twitch capturing stuff, and I'm just trying to find the motivation to get this script together. But that is definitely something I have thought about changing, Nate, is going more in that direction, the scripted and properly edited stuff, but also keeping it kind of gameplay related, maybe talking about like tips and strategies on games in a more direct manner. I have a very casual video I did a couple of years ago called How to Beat the Bosses in Ninja Gaiden, or How to Beat the Final Boss in Ninja Gaiden. It was a very casual video. I just fired up the game with a save state and, just talked casually for like 7 or 8 minutes like I do in a Let's Play. And it's got like 15,000+ views, and I get comments on it every week, and people, have been like, thanks for this video. It's helped me actually finally beat this game. I have so many comments where people have finally beaten the game. And I'm thinking about trying to do a dedicated video format that, covers topics like that, like stuff that's actually useful to people that are playing retro games. My Let's Plays, I try to talk about those topics, but I think a lot of people don't want to sit through an hour-long video or a full playthrough. So like trying to move some video types I do into that direction where it's like scripted and edited and concise and you know, kind of like some video game tip VHS videos we used to watch growing up. You know, maybe that'll help with like channel growth. Maybe that'll help with, you know, people interacting with the videos and you know, finding use in the videos. That is one way I thought about trying to change things, but outside that, I don't know. Outside of taking a break from YouTube or trying to you know, slow down my schedule or just really reflect on things, I don't know. But we'll see. Only time will tell. So that last topic was probably all over the place, guys, so I apologize for it. And you know, yeah, well, YouTube's been just something that I've been doing for a very long time, and very long time. It's been a journey. Not sure how much farther I want to take this journey. But I'm not sure if there's anything I actually really want to change in the end. I don't know. I'd have to dwell on the topic more. So there were actually a lot of things I wanted to talk about too, but I'm just so all over the place in this video. I didn't take any notes or anything like that, so this is just completely off the cuff. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut myself off here because I'm a rambling mess right now. But yeah, thanks Nate for that question, and that's pretty much gonna do it for me, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A session. Rambling at the end aside, like I said. This will be early access for Patreon backers and YouTube channel members, and Twitch subscribers. You need to link your Discord with Twitch, so you can have access to my Discord. Then you can actually get the video early as well in the early access section on my Discord server. But yeah, thanks for that, guys. Once this goes public on YouTube after the early access period, I'll make another post on Patreon and on my Discord and on the YouTube community tab section for more questions for session number 8. And so like I said, hopefully we can get this going on a regular basis. And like I said, I do enjoy doing these because it just gives me some time to vent and just to talk and touch on subjects that you guys might want to hear about. So, but alrighty, guys, that's it. You know, if you guys have any other comments or anything like that, feel free to post them in the comment section down below. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. If anyone else is actually interested in participating on these but isn't already a backer, you know, feel free to consider backing my channel. YouTube channel memberships as little as $1 a month, or Patreon support as little as $1 a month. You know, that really helps me out here, but you can also participate on videos like these, and you can also get my videos early. So if anyone's interested in pitching in, links are in the description box as always to get you in the right direction. And yeah, for everyone else, thanks for your continued support. You know, even if you're not a Patreon backer, I hope you still enjoy these Q&A sessions, because I'm sure some of these questions are things you might have been thinking about too. So, but yeah, that's it, guys. I guess until the next one, take it easy.